clone assignment, Jason stepped off the small human transport ship onto the shining metal floor of the alien capital. The atmosphere inside the alien palace was warm and heavy, filled with strange perfumes and silent guards with glowing eyes. It was the heart of the Zyrethi Empire, a powerful alien species ruled by a single queen for thousands of years. Jason wasn't a soldier or a spy. He was just a diplomat. His mission was simple: build peaceful relations. But nothing about the Zyrethi was ever simple. The queen had not come to greet him. Instead, waiting for him was a tall, silver-skinned alien woman with glowing blue markings and cold yellow eyes. She was beautiful in a way that didn't feel human, too perfect, too still. "I am Virel," she said in a flat voice. "You will speak with me." Jason looked around. "You're not the queen?" "I am her clone, her voice, her mind, her flesh, her tool." That made Jason pause. This Virel was a living copy of the queen herself, but she didn't blink, didn't breathe deep, just stared like a machine. Jason gave a nervous smile. "Okay, let's talk." For the next 2 weeks, Jason stayed in a guest chamber deep in the palace. He ate alien food, answered endless questions, and spent every hour with Virel. At first, she spoke without emotion, asking things like, "How do humans choose mates? Why do you protect your weak? Why do you die for love?" Jason answered honestly. He didn't care if she understood. He just talked. Sometimes he made jokes. Sometimes he showed her old videos from Earth. He thought she was ignoring them, but then something strange happened. Virel laughed. Not a big laugh, just a soft sound, almost like a whisper, but it was real. Jason blinked. "You laughed?" She turned her head. "No, I mimicked a sound." He smiled. "Right." But from that day on, Virel changed. She started sitting closer to him. She touched objects with more care. She watched his face when he spoke. Her cold eyes warmed just a little. One night, alarms echoed through the palace. Someone had tried to kill Jason. Poison in his food. A trap meant to destroy the fragile peace. Jason didn't notice the danger. He had already eaten the meal. Virel burst into the room and slapped the plate from his hands. He staggered back, confused. "Hey, what?" She grabbed his wrist, pressed 2 fingers to his neck, and stared into his eyes. Pulse. Fast. Skin. Sweating. "You are poisoned." Jason collapsed. When he woke up, he was in a strange chamber. Warm light glowed from the ceiling. Soft alien cloths were wrapped around him. And Virel was sitting beside him, watching. "You almost died," she said. "I stopped it." Jason tried to smile. "Thanks, guess you do care." Virel didn't respond at first. Then, in a quiet voice, she said something that shook him. "I felt something. I don't understand it." Jason looked into her glowing eyes. "That's called emotion." She nodded slowly. "Is this what love feels like?" Jason swallowed. "Maybe. Could be the start of it." Virel stood and walked toward the window. "I was designed to copy the queen. Her mind, her power. But she never gave me this. You did." Jason sat up, surprised by how serious she sounded. "What do you mean?" She turned back to him. "My body was made perfect, but empty. Until now." Then she stepped closer and touched his chest. "Will you stay with me? Tonight?" Jason hesitated, but he saw something in her eyes. Fear. Curiosity. Longing. He nodded. That night, the cold clone of a powerful alien queen held a human man in her arms. No guards. No science. No politics. Just something raw and real. What neither of them knew was that the real queen was watching, and she did not look angry. She looked interested. Unnatural consequences. Virel stood alone in the medical chamber. Her silver skin shimmered under the soft blue lights, but her face looked troubled. She stared at her reflection in the tall mirror, pressing both hands over her belly. For the first time in her life, something was wrong. Or maybe something was right. She had been created to be perfect. A clone. A servant. A voice for the Queen. She was never meant to feel emotions. She was never meant to change. But now, something inside her was changing. Deep inside. Jason entered the chamber after being cleared by the guards. His steps were slow, still tired from the poisoning incident days ago, but he smiled when he saw Varel. "You called me?" he asked softly. She turned, but didn't smile. Her voice was flat. "The doctors say I'm malfunctioning." Jason's heart skipped. "What do you mean?" Varel touched her stomach. "My body is creating life. I am pregnant." Jason froze. "Pregnant? But clones can't." "You said you were made sterile." "I was, until you." Word spread through the palace faster than light. The Queen's clone was pregnant. By a human. Scientists from all over the Empire rushed to study the impossible. Guards tightened their patrols. The Queen ordered silence and secrecy. No one outside the palace was to learn this. But inside, the Queen watched. From a dark chamber behind a glass wall, she studied every move Jason and Varel made. Her golden eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in deep curiosity. "He did what no Zerathi ever could," she whispered to her advisor. "He made the clone real." Varel sat on her bed later that night, her eyes low. "I feel shame," she said, "and I do not understand why." Jason sat beside her. "Why would you feel shame?" "I broke a law of nature. I became more than I was meant to be." Jason reached for her hand. "You didn't break anything. You became alive." Varel looked at him. "You did this to me." He nodded. "Yeah, and if you want me gone, I'll go, but if you want me to stay..." "I want you to stay," she whispered. The next morning, Varel was summoned to the throne chamber. Jason followed but was told to wait outside. Inside, the Queen stood tall on her crystal platform. She looked exactly like Varel. Same face, same body, but colder, older. Her voice was sharp like ice. "You carry the child of a human," the Queen said. "Yes, my Queen." "Do you feel shame?" Varel paused. "I did, but not now." "Why not?" "Because I felt love, and because now I feel life." The Queen stared at her silently, then stepped down from her platform and walked close. "You were made to be my voice, my reflection, and now you've become more." She circled Varel, touching her stomach softly. "I want to understand what he gave you," she said. Jason was waiting outside when the Queen exited the chamber. He stood up fast, nervous. But she didn't speak. She didn't scold. She just looked at him, long and quiet. Then she said only 3 words. "You interest me." That night, Jason couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the Queen's strange words. He had changed Varel without trying. He had touched her mind, her body, her heart. But now the real Queen was watching, and Jason didn't know what she wanted. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the palace, others whispered in fear. The pregnancy of a clone was impossible and dangerous. Some believed the child should be removed. Others said the Queen herself was becoming unstable. Whispers of rebellion began to spread. But Varel, she sat in her chamber, one hand on her belly, and for the first time ever, she smiled. Because for the first time, she was more than a clone. She was a mother, summoned to the throne. Jason was taken from his room without warning. 4 silent, alien guards stood outside his door before dawn. They didn't speak. They only handed him a cloak made from soft, glowing threads and motioned for him to follow. Jason's heartbeat quickened. Was this it? Had the Queen changed her mind? Was he being punished? He glanced once at Varel's empty bed. She had left early for a medical scan. He wished he could see her one more time before being taken away, but there was no time. The guards led him through golden halls, past giant statues of Zarethi rulers, and into a part of the palace he had never seen before. Massive stone doors opened, with a deep hiss. Inside was silence. The throne room. The air inside felt heavy, like a storm waiting to break. The ceiling stretched high above, carved with stories of battles and conquests. Long glowing crystals hung like frozen lightning. At the far end, on a raised platform, stood her, the real queen. Jason had seen her once before, on a screen during a welcome message, but now she stood in front of him, alive and commanding. She wore a flowing robe of living light. Her hair floated in the air like mist, and her eyes, sharp and golden, studied him without blinking. She looked just like Virel, but not colder, stronger, heavier somehow, as if she carried the weight of the galaxy. Human, she spoke, her voice calm but piercing. Come closer. Jason stepped forward. Every sound echoed, his boots, his breath, even his heartbeat. Do you know why you are here? She asked. I assume it's about Virel. The queen tilted her head. My clone, my mirror, and now, the carrier of your hybrid child. Jason swallowed hard. I didn't mean for it to happen, but I don't regret it. That answer made her pause. No regret? She asked. Even though it breaks every law of our kind? Jason stood tall. Maybe your laws are wrong. A long silence filled the room. Then, to his surprise, the queen smiled. Just a little. I created Virel to be me, without the burden of the throne, the queen said. She was my tool, my voice, a perfect shell. Yet you filled her with something I could not. She began walking slowly down the steps toward him. I watched. I saw her laugh. I saw her fear for your life. I saw her choose to protect you. That is not programming. Jason said nothing. He didn't know what to say. You changed her, the queen said. And now, I wonder. She stood just inches away from him now. Can you change me too? Jason was stunned. What do you mean? The queen looked deep into his eyes. For 1,000 years I have ruled. No mate, no softness, only duty. But when I saw her cry for you, something cracked inside me. She took his hand. I want to feel what she felt. I want to understand what she became. Jason's breath caught. You're the queen. You can have anyone. No, she said firmly. Not anyone like you. Suddenly, a voice echoed from the shadows. Your Majesty, this is dangerous. A tall alien elder stepped forward. He bowed, but his tone was cold. The people will not accept you bonding with a human. This is weakness. This is rebellion. The queen raised her hand. The elder froze. I am not asking, she said. I am choosing. She turned to Jason. I offer you a place beside me, for one full moon cycle. No chains, no tricks. You may refuse. But if you accept, I will give you something no one has had in 1,000 years. My true self. Jason looked into her eyes. He saw no cruelty, only a deep, painful hunger to feel something real. I accept, Jason said quietly. Later that night, the queen walked alone in her private chamber. She removed her robe. The mirrors around her shimmered. She looked at her reflection and whispered, I was a queen without feeling. But now, I want to become a woman who chooses. And behind her, Jason entered the room, not as a prisoner, not as a guest, but as the human who made a queen question her own nature. The queen's proposal. The queen sat alone on the edge of her crystal balcony. The twin moons of the Zarethi homeworld glowed behind her like eyes in the night. Her robe flowed softly in the wind, but her thoughts were not calm. She had never made an offer like this before, not in 1,000 years, not to anyone. and certainly not to a human. Jason stood in the doorway, unsure if he should speak. The royal chamber was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of floating lights and the distant sound of alien winds. The queen turned slowly. Her face had no crown, no mask, just raw beauty and something deeper, something he had never seen in her before. Doubt. I thought I would feel powerful, she said softly. Choosing a human, commanding you. Jason stayed still, sensing she was speaking not as a ruler, but as a woman trying to understand herself. But instead, she whispered, I feel exposed. Jason walked closer. You don't have to prove anything to me. I do, she said. Not because I'm the queen, but because you touched something in Varel that I believed was lost. She stood up now, tall and glowing under the moons. You changed a clone, a copy, a creation. She was never supposed to love, but she did. Jason looked into her eyes. She didn't just love. She lived. The queen nodded slowly. Then let me live too. She raised her hand, and a wall slid open behind her. Inside was a chamber unlike anything Jason had seen. It shimmered with living light, like stars woven into the walls. At the center was a round nest of glowing vines and silk-like sheets. This is my birth chamber, she said, a place no one enters unless chosen. Jason blinked. Why show me this? She walked into the center and turned. Because tonight I don't want to be your ruler. I want to be your equal, if only for one cycle. Jason stepped forward, unsure. Is this about power? He asked. Or about wanting to feel what Varel felt? The queen slowly removed her robe, revealing glowing symbols across her skin, old markings of her royal bloodline. I thought I wanted data, she said. I thought I wanted to compare her experience to mine, but now, I just want to know if I'm even capable of being felt. She held out her hand. Will you give me what you gave her? Not out of duty, but by choice? Jason walked to her. Not because she was the queen, but because, just for this moment, she wasn't. She was a woman who ruled galaxies yet didn't know how to be touched. A woman who had never heard her name spoken softly. A woman who wanted to be human, if only for one night. He took her hand, and didn't say a word. Later, as the moons passed overhead, the chamber glowed brighter. The queen, wrapped in the warmth of touch and breath, closed her eyes and whispered something no advisor had ever heard from her. I feel small. Jason smiled softly. That's how you know it's real. The next morning, silence filled the palace halls, but behind the queen's private chamber doors, something had changed forever. The guards sensed it. The advisors felt it. Even the air seemed warmer. The queen walked out alone, but lighter. She wore no crown, no armor, no glowing robe, just a simple silver cloth and a quiet smile. But that peace did not last long. Whispers grew stronger now. The queen is bonding with the human. The clone carries his child. This is not just love. It's corruption. In the lower chambers, the elders met in secret. They called it a crisis, a mutation of tradition, a threat to the empire's future, and they began to plan. Meanwhile, Varel stood in the garden, watching the red flowers bloom as her hand rested on her growing belly. She knew something was coming, something big. But for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid, because her heart was no longer programmed, it was real. When power melts, the palace had changed. Its air, once cold and still, now felt alive, like something hidden was breathing beneath the walls. Servants whispered. Guards watched with quiet tension. The queen's steps no longer echoed with command but with emotion, and deep inside the throne chamber the queen stood beside Jason. No crown, no weapon, no mask, just a woman who had begun to feel. You should not be here so openly, Jason said, looking at the alien ministers outside the glass wall. They already know, the queen replied calmly, and they are afraid. Of what? She turned to face him. of a queen who listens to her heart. Virel entered the room slowly. Her stomach was larger now, proof of the impossible. Her silver skin glowed under the morning light, but her eyes were calm. She looked not like a clone anymore, but like a mother. Jason walked to her and touched her gently. "You okay?" She nodded. "He's growing fast. The doctors don't understand it." The queen stepped closer. Her gaze rested not on Virel's face, but on her belly. She placed a hand on it slowly. "I feel him," she whispered. Jason noticed how quiet the room had become. Even the guards seemed frozen. "He has no name yet," Virel said. The queen looked at Jason. "You will name him." Jason blinked. "Me? You are his father, and more. You are the thread that binds us." Outside, the silence was breaking. The High Council had gathered. 12 of the oldest and most powerful minds in the Empire sat around the circle of judgment. Their faces were hard, their eyes unforgiving. "This cannot go on," hissed one of them. "She beds the human. The clone bears his child." "The bloodline is being contaminated," growled another. One old voice rose louder than the others. "Elder Voran, if we do nothing, she will turn our empire into a house of emotion. Love, weakness, that human must be removed." Quietly, that night Jason stood on the balcony with Virel watching stars shimmer over the horizon. "I feel like something is coming," he said softly. "It is," Virel replied. "But we are not alone now." She rested her head on his shoulder. "You gave us something we didn't know we were missing," he smiled. "What?" She looked up. "A reason to hope." But below them, in the shadows, a blade was being drawn. The queen stood in her chamber reading ancient scrolls, stories of rulers who lived with hearts turned to stone, who died never knowing softness. She felt ashamed to be one of them once. Now, everything had changed. Jason had changed her. And for the first time in her rule, she feared losing something, or someone. The assassination attempt came just before dawn. Jason had just stepped out of Virel's chamber when 2 masked Zairethi charged from the shadows. One carried a curved energy blade, the other aimed a dart. Gun straight at his chest, he dove behind a pillar. Virel screamed from inside the room. The dart fired, missed by inches. Jason ran unarmed, but the assassins were fast. One reached him, blade raised, and then energy exploded through the hall. The queen stood at the far end, her hand glowing with fire. "You dare strike the father of my heir?" Her voice wasn't loud, but it shattered stone. The assassins turned to run, but didn't make it far. Later, Jason sat on the edge of the queen's bed, his face bruised but alive. "They won't stop," he said. "Not until I'm gone." The queen looked at him. "Then let them come. I will stand between you and every blade." Jason shook his head. "Why?" She walked to him, eyes soft but burning. "Because you made me human, and I will not go back to being less." The next day, the queen summoned the High Council. No throne, no guards, no weapons. She entered the chamber alone, and pregnant with fire. "You tried to take from me what I chose to love," she said. "You are not a queen anymore," Elder Voran said. "You are a female clouded by human touch." She smiled. "Good. Then fear me more than ever. Because now, I feel." She raised her voice. "This is not weakness. This is evolution. We have ruled with ice and fear for too long. Now we will rule with fire and blood that beats with life." Then she made her declaration. "Jason will not be removed. Virel will not be hidden. And the child will be heir to my throne." Shock filled the chamber. But no one spoke, because they saw something new in her eyes, not just power, not just love, but something dangerous, conviction. 2 queens, 1 human Jason stood between 2 women who shared the same face, but not the same heart. On his left stood Virel, the clone, now soft, full of life, her hands always resting protectively on her growing belly. On his right stood the Queen, her eyes calm but burning with something deeper. Desire. Not just for him, but for everything Varel had discovered first. Emotion, connection, family. He didn't ask for this. But now, both of them wanted him, and he had to decide. That morning, in the royal garden, Varel took Jason's hand. She is the queen, she said softly. She can have anyone, but I only have you. Jason looked into her eyes. You have me, Varel. You always did. She smiled, just a little. But behind that smile, there was fear. She will not let you go, Varel said. Not now. Not after what you awakened inside her. Elsewhere, in the palace, the queen spoke with her trusted advisors in secret. I gave my clone a chance to learn, she said. But it is I who learned. She was your shadow, one elder said carefully. Now she casts one over you. The queen turned sharply. No, I am not being replaced, I am becoming. Later that night, Jason was summoned to the queen's chamber. She stood by the edge of the moonlit balcony, her robe open at the shoulders, showing golden markings across her skin, signs of the royal bloodline pulsing beneath. Do you regret your choice? She asked. He didn't answer right away. I didn't make a choice, he said. This wasn't meant to become a triangle. She turned to him. But it has. You carry a part of me now, whether you wanted it or not. Jason stepped closer. What do you want from me, truly? She walked up to him, eyes glowing under moonlight. I want what she has, not just your body, but your bond. I want to feel your heartbeat the way she does. I want to be more than a ruler. He stared at her, unsure whether to be honored or terrified. Varel, meanwhile, stood on the edge of the birthing pool, a sacred chamber meant only for royal blood. She placed her hand over her stomach and whispered to the child, Your father may be claimed by two, but only one will raise you with truth. Behind her, a shadow moved. It was the queen. They stared at each other, mirror to mirror. The queen spoke first. I want to be part of his legacy. Varel stood tall. Then let him choose. Truly choose. The queen nodded. Tomorrow, she said. He will choose between us. That next day, the throne hall was cleared. No guards, no elders, just the three of them, the human, the clone, and the queen. Jason stood in the center of the room. Varel and the queen stood apart from each other, and both waited. I never wanted this to be a contest, Jason said. The queen said nothing. Varel lowered her gaze. I care about you both, he continued, but in different ways. He walked slowly to Varel. You were the first to feel, he said. You showed me that love can bloom even in a place like this. Then he turned to the queen. You were the first to fight for it. You broke 1,000 years of silence to become something new. The queen watched him with eyes unreadable. I won't choose one over the other, Jason said. Because I don't believe love works like that anymore. Varel frowned. You want both of us? Jason nodded. Not as property, not as prizes, but as people. You are both becoming something greater than you were meant to be. He looked at the queen. You said you want evolution, then accept this truth. I love both of you differently but deeply, and our child deserves both. A long silence filled the hall. Then, Varel stepped forward. So be it, she whispered. She took Jason's hand. Then, to everyone's shock, so did the queen. Her fingers touched his. Then, Varel's. For the first time in Zyrethi history, two versions of the same soul stood united. Not in war, but in love. But beyond the palace walls, far from the lights of the capital, a war fleet was forming. Old bloodlines were rising, and they would not allow a half-human child to sit on the Zyrethi throne. The queen who chose love, the queen who chose love. The sky above the Zyrethi palace had never looked darker. Warships blotted out the moons. Their hulls were marked with the ancient symbols of the old bloodlines, noble houses that believed the queen had betrayed the throne by allowing a human to touch royal blood. And worse, impregnate a clone. Inside the palace, alarms echoed. Red lights pulsed across the walls. The palace guards rushed to form lines at the gates, but the queen stood still, watching from her balcony. She said nothing. Her eyes stared at the stars, but her mind was focused on just one thing: Jason. In the queen's private chamber, Jason held Varel close. She was breathing hard now. Her belly had grown heavy and signs of labor were beginning. She tried to stand, but collapsed into his arms. "She's coming," Varel whispered. "The child. Our daughter. She wants out." Jason nodded, brushing sweat from her forehead. "Then we bring her into this world," he said, "even if the world is falling apart." Outside, the rebel fleet began to descend. The High Council had fractured. Half of them had fled to join the rebellion. The rest remained silent, unwilling to fight for a queen they no longer understood. Inside the palace walls, only the loyal few remained. But they weren't enough. Not against a fleet of that size. The queen knew this. She entered the war chamber alone, her cape trailing behind her like shadows. Her general stood at attention, confused by her calm expression. "We can hold the gate for 2 hours," one said. 3 if we trigger the city's defense towers, another added. The queen raised her hand. "You will do nothing." The room fell silent. "Your Majesty?" the general asked. "I will not spill Zyrethi blood to protect my heart," she said. "If they want me, they can take me." Jason cradled Varel as she screamed through another contraction. Sweat poured from her skin and her markings glowed bright. The hybrid child inside her was not just Zyrethi or human, it was more. As Jason prepared the soft birthing basin, the queen entered the chamber. She looked at Varel, then at Jason. "I must go," she said. Jason froze. "Go where?" "To the enemy. I will face them. Alone." "You'll be killed," Jason shouted. She stepped forward, her hand gently resting on his cheek. "If I do not go, they will bring this palace down. They will kill you. Varel, the child, I cannot fight them without losing all of you." He grabbed her hand. "There has to be another way." "There is not," she said calmly. Then she did something no Zyrethi queen had done in centuries. She bowed. "To my child, to the father of my rebirth, and to the mother who now carries my hope." Varel, barely able to speak, reached out and whispered, "Come back." The queen nodded. "If I can." The queen walked alone toward the outer gates, unarmed. Thousands waited for her on the other side. Ships, soldiers, elders, warlords. She raised no shield. She wore no crown. But her presence silenced them all. From the lead ship, Elder Varan stepped down. "You bring shame to our blood," he hissed. "You carry a disease of emotion, and now you kneel to a human." "I do not kneel," she said. "I rise, and you fear that." Varan laughed. "Then die with your mistakes." He raised his hand. The order was about to be given. Then, a scream pierced the sky. Inside the palace, Varel cried out one last time. Jason caught the child in his arms, a small, glowing baby, her eyes blinking open for the first time. She did not cry. She glowed. Bright light poured from her chest. Her tiny fingers sparked with life, energy never seen before by human or alien. Jason stared, stunned. "She's..." Varel, exhausted but smiling, whispered, "She's the future." That glow spread through the palace, down the halls, through the walls, into the earth, and beyond, to the gates. As Elder Voran raised his arm to fire, a wave of light hit them. The queen turned back. From the tallest tower, a beam of pure golden white energy surged into the sky, rising like a pillar. The rebels gasped, the air became warm. Their weapons fizzled, their minds shook. Every Zyrethi in range fell to their knees, not from pain, but awe. Elder Varan collapsed. Screaming, "What is this?" the queen smiled. "That is her." The child's birth had awakened something ancient. something buried deep in the blood of the Zerethi. Emotion, connection, renewal. And now, it spread like fire. Jason carried the baby to the balcony. Virel, weak but alive, walked behind him. 3. Queen turned to them, and for the first time in her life she fell to her knees, not as a queen, but as a woman whose world had just been saved by love. Jason stepped forward and raised the child above them all. "She is not the end of your empire," he shouted. "She is the beginning." And the rebels dropped their weapons. One by one, the warships retreated, not by force, not by threat, but by something they had forgotten. Hope. Weeks passed. The queen no longer ruled from a cold throne. She ruled from a circle of voices, Jason at her side, Virel beside him, and their child on her lap. The child, Anya, grew faster than any expected. Her laughter calmed tempers. Her touch healed skin. She was living proof that humanity and Zerethi were not meant to destroy each other, but to evolve. One evening, the queen walked with Jason through the garden. "I once feared losing control," she said. Jason smiled. "Now, you lead better without it." She looked at him. "Do you regret any of it?" He shook his head. "No, because you didn't just let me in. You let yourself out." Anya ran toward them, her small feet glowing like stars on the stone. Jason lifted her up, kissed her cheek. Virel stood in the distance watching her family and smiling. The queen no longer wore a crown. She wore peace, and that peace was born the moment she allowed herself to love.